stronger leader than President Obama. Other Republicans have strongly objected to that. Trump also defended this comment about the Iraq War.
To hear Hillary Clinton say that I was not against the war in Iraq. I was totally against the war in Iraq. You can look at...
But listen to what Trump said on the radio with Howard Stern in September 2002, before the war began.
Are you for invading Iraq?
Yeah, I guess so.
Kellyanne Conway, Donald Trump's campaign manager, is here in Studio 57. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So was Donald Trump for the Iraq War or against it?
He was a private citizen who was against the Iraq War. You heard him with Howard Stern say, yeah, I guess so. Had he been in the United States Senate, he would have casted a vote against the Iraq War.
How do we know that?
Because he said so. The same thing that Senator Obama said he would have done in 2008, and everybody just took him at his word.
But the point is, as you know, he constantly says, I was always against the war. Here he says, I guess I would support it. That's a contradiction.
Not really, Charlie, and here's why. He's on a radio show. Hillary Clinton went into the well of the United States Senate representing this state of New York and cast a vote in favor of the Iraq War.
But this is not about Hillary Clinton, it's about Donald Trump and what he said, because she has acknowledged that vote and acknowledged it was a mistake. He has not, and he wants to have it both ways.
He has acknowledged that her vote in the Iraq War was a mistake. He agrees with her that it was a mistake.
No, but he has not acknowledged that at one point he said he was for the war. Why can't he simply say that? At one point I was, and then I changed my mind.
Because there are other public statements that he made contemporaneously with that, including the Esquire magazine interview where he gives a much longer answer about why he thinks it was a bad idea. And he's very clear now about how it did not work. It was a disaster. And it cost thousands of American lives. It cost trillions of dollars to this country. And most Americans agree with him. This is a contrast choice election. I think the choice on who was there voting for the Iraq War and causing our men and women to go over there and agreeing with the Bush view of going to war was Hillary Clinton. She was in the United States Senate.
Kellyanne, let me ask you, why does Donald Trump and Mike Pence keep praising Vladimir Putin?
They're not praising them, so he's not praising them so much as saying that we'll work with people. Anybody who wants to help stop the advance of ISIS will be welcome in a Trump-Pence administration to do so.
No, to say that he's a stronger leader than Barack Obama seems to be praising Vladimir Putin.
What he said was he's seen as stronger in his country, and he also said, if you pull the whole quote, he said he doesn't agree with that form of government, but that in that country, Vladimir Putin is stronger. It's very simple, Gail, in that as president, he would like to not do a Russia reset. I mean, that was a disastrous idea, really embarrassing if you go back and look at the clip of Hillary Clinton walking over with some reset gadget.
Maybe this is a better way to ask it. What do you mean he's been a stronger leader? What does that mean, that Vladimir Putin has been a stronger leader than Barack Obama? He
said, what Mr. Trump said is that Vladimir Putin was a stronger leader in Russia based on a system that he does not agree with, if you look at the full quote. However, he's saying that the man I'm sorry, excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, said that Putin is an aggressor that does not share our interests. Senator Lindsey Graham said Trump is, quote, making the mistake of the ages by thinking like and agreeing with Vladimir Putin.
They're misreading the quote then.
Okay,
it's not
and
that
then why would Donald Trump do an interview with Russian TV that is sponsored by the Kremlin?
He actually did an interview with Larry King, a personal friend of his, a friend of, I'm sure, everyone around the table, and he said he was doing it for his podcast, didn't know it would be on Russian TV, but what he said there was...
How does something like that happen, that the campaign doesn't know that his words are going to be played on Kremlin State TV? Larry King was doing the interview for Kremlin State TV.
For his podcast. I wasn't involved in that interview. However, I will tell you that he was doing it as a favor to his friend Larry King, and it was Larry King has a podcast. But the point is the same. But the point is the same. But the point is the same. It's that one of the two candidates running for president as we speak was the Secretary of State and was a United States Senator. He has been a private citizen expressing his views. It is her record that people are scrutinizing now. She made terrible decisions. She went against the military brass when they said don't do Libya. She went against the military brass when people wanted her to recognize Boko Haram as a terrorist organization. They've used innocent little girls as suicide shields.
Now, I mean, you keep referring to her, and we will talk about her record when her running mate is here later in this program. Just one last question. North Korea. What would Donald Trump do if North Korea has ballistic missiles that can carry nuclear weapons to the continental United States?
Well, he wouldn't do what's being done now with the president over in Asia talking about Donald Trump instead of really talking about North Korea.
You always refer to what the Democrats are doing.
Election.
What would he do? He wants to be president. What would he do if North Korea had the capacity to deliver a nuclear weapon to the United States?
Donald Trump would be, first of all, his entire America First campaign doctrine is that he would always look out for the interests of this country. And North Korea and the rest of the world would know, Charlie, that President Trump and Vice President Pence aren't messing around with anybody who's trying to threaten our lives. I mean, the generals that I hear and the national security experts that I hear talk about nuclear capability being nothing short of devastating.
What would he do about North Korea if they had the capacity?
Would it be diplomatic or military response?
He would make sure that they would never use it.
How?
He's not going to reveal all of his plans now. He's made that very clear. And maybe somebody can ask him in a debate. But the fact is that this entire world would be put on notice that there's a strong leader in the White House. There would be no failures in Syria, in Libya, in Benghazi. There would be no Russian reset. There would be no advance of ISIS, who our own president called the JV team.
But Kellyanne, he doesn't want to reveal his plans. How can voters make a decision if they don't know what it is? He says he will fight ISIS and he will take care of ISIS, but he said, I don't want the enemy to know what I'm going to do. How can voters make an informed decision if they don't know how he's going to do this?
The informed decision, Gail, is we already know what she would do. I mean, President Obama called ISIS the JV team, said they were being contained right on the eve of them exactly executing another awful attack on innocent people in Europe. And so the birth and growth of ISIS happened in the last 3 years alone. You have 33,000 people killed since 2003 between ISIS and its predecessor groups. 80% of those murders have happened just in the last 3 years. So people will say, who was there when that happened? And can we do something different with stronger leadership?
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.